Okay, so I just wanted to show you how we're going to create this small little app. It doesn't do anything terribly exciting, but it does cover some really important principles. And sorry if I unhighlight the text. Some really important principles here that will be useful when you're out there in the real world building other apps or small interfaces. So if I press run on this code, what it's going to do, it's going to return to us the time that the International Space Station is passing over us. Now you'll see that it says New York City in the location. I am definitely not in New York City, which is probably a good thing, given all the troubles they're having over there. Obviously hope they recover as soon as possible. But the reason it says New York City is because that's where the server's based for REPL, which is the application that we're using to write this code. And you'll see that it passes over today, which is tomorrow actually? Tomorrow on the 12th of May at 2:23 in the morning. So I'm going to delete the code so we can rebuild this together and go through. I will cut and paste some of the bits in because it'll just make it quicker and easier, but just for the purposes of the video. But we can talk through. So I'm going to actually leave all of the comments in so we can see what I was trying to do and work through. I think commenting is a really good habit to get into, and along the way we'll show you some of these things as they print out. So apologies, this isn't going to be the slickest video in the world, but we will get there. And last bit. Okay. So, as with almost all applications, you do need to import some libraries to help you. And the two that we're going to have with us today is just datetime, import datetime, and import requests. Now, datetime just gives us nicely formatted dates and times, and requests allows us to make HTTP requests, so allows us to go and access things on the internet and send information via the internet. So it's really important to have that. And you'll see that we'll use these in due course as well. So I'll show you where we use them. Or at least certainly see where we're going to use one of them. So the first thing we need to do is to go and get our IP information. And we're going to use an open source website to do that. So let's store IP info is going to be the variable that we're going to assign this to. So we've created that variable, and here's our requests, which comes from up here, remember? And we're going to ask it to go and get some information, so to return some data to us. And the website that we're going to go to is https://ipinfo.io. And we're going to ask for it back in JSON. Now it's really important to ask for the information of the right structure. JSON, I'll show you what it looks like in a second. So if we just went to print IP info and then run this code, you can see that it gives us back all this lovely data in JSON format. So this is what a JSON structure looks like. It's just key value pairs. So IP in quotations, the IP address in quotations. So that's the actual IP address of the REPL. If you're using this just on your local machine, as opposed to through the REPL interface, it would return your exact location based on where you are. But you can see here that all of this information we can then extract. So if I wanted to, let's see if I can do this. If I wanted to just extract the region, then I would type in square brackets region and just print that. And actually I think it's going to say New York. It should go and get this bit of information, and there you go, it says New York. And obviously in due course we want to see what actual city we're in, because that will give us the part. So New York is obviously in New York. Oh, sorry, New York City is in New York. Okay, so that's great because that shows us what I wanted to do there, and we can move on to the next step. So knowing that we want to assign the city name later on, which will be useful to us when we output the data, we can assign city as a variable, and we can just do what I showed you before. So input IP info, and then go along and find city and return that variable and assign it to city. So if we now print city, oops, it'll show us the same thing that we had before. So there you go, New York City, just to prove that it's working. Okay, so the latitude and longitude, I think I spelled latitude wrong. There we go. That's better. Latitude and longitude. This is really helpful when you're actually using the ISS API, which we can look at in a second. But we need that information to know exactly where the International Space Station will be, or to tell it what time it will pass over us. So this is a slightly more convoluted part, but you can see how we can string functions together. So we're going to create two variables now at the same time. So variables lat and long, and we're going to ask our IP info request that we got up here. So it's just going to look through that up there, and it's going to ask us for the location. So we're going to ask it for the location, and then we're going to split it and assign it between each variables. So if I now did print lat lon, you'll see that two numbers should appear. There we go. So that's the latitude and longitude of New York City. So that's great. So we've got that there. This is really important because we're going to pass these variables that we've created into the ISS API. So let's call this ISS data. And again, our friend requests, it's going to come in. So we're going to go and get something. And this is the bit, I'm going to cut and paste this in because it's quite a long address. Oops. So please be with me. Here we go. So this is the address, but by all means, have a go at typing this out because you get used to it. But what's happening here is we're going to pass in the lat and longitude essentially into these placeholders. And the way we do that is we then add to this format lat lon, and then remember we're using JSON here. Now I wouldn't expect you to know or remember this. You know, I have to look this up as well when you're doing it. And the way you do it, you look at the API documentation for using this. I won't show it to you now. We'll look at one later together. But essentially, it will tell you how you make the request and tell you how you insert the data to get that request back to you in a useful manner. So let's see what happens when we print ISS data. Oops, just put my brackets. Okay, so I've done something wrong. What have I done wrong? Let's look at this. Format. Okay, so this bracket is in the wrong place. So that needs to be deleted. And it needed to go there actually. So let's see if that works better. Great, okay, lovely. So this, there's a lot of things here that are somewhat helpful and somewhat unhelpful to us. It's a nice JSON object, but the responses are pretty intelligible. What we're going to be after later is probably something called rise time. I think that's what we'll use. But this is the time stamp, and time in internet language doesn't always look like the time in human language, and that's why we need that date time library up above. But you can see that we'll be able to tell because of our longitude and latitude that have been imported here. So these are coming into there, that it will generate timestamps based on that for us. So we need to assign the time to a variable and make it look pretty. So time equals date time. So this is our library dot date time dot UTC. So this is sorry, how the doorbell just went. I'm gonna stop the video and cut it up later. Hi, I'm back. So sorry about that. Where was I going to go? Okay, yeah, so cool. What I like about using things like REPL is it starts to give you some IntelliSense. So you can see here it's kind of prompting what's going to happen. So I can actually click on that and it kind of tells me where it's going to go because it looks at the library and prompts things. It's one of the nice things about modern coding is that there's so many things to help you. So anyway, back to where I was. So we need to pass into this our ISS data bit, so this bit that we've stored, and then we need to ask it for a response. That's my response, and we need to ask it for the first response in the array, and then we're going to ask for rise time. So essentially we're asking to go through and get, if I expand this a little bit. So this is the whole response that comes back, by the way. And then we're looking for the first array that comes back. So I think it's here. So it's going response, and it's grabbing this, and it's grabbing the first part of it. So yeah, so rise time. So it's grabbing this one. I think that's what we're actually asking it to go and get. So it's always nice to kind of look at where you're going so you can predict that. And then I think that's it. So if we print time, let's see what comes back instead. It should just be a nicely formatted timestamp. Yeah, so there we go. That's lovely. Right, okay, so we're almost done. So it doesn't take long to build this out. The next part is final printing to the screen, and let's make it feel a bit more human. So we're going to say ISS is next over city, which is the city up here. So it's probably going to be New York City at time. So that's this going in here, and then let's just make sure we do our formatting. City. Well, let's see what happens if we don't do that to start with. So let's run that. Yeah, okay. Now we need to add this on. Dot format city equals city time equals time. Okay, and that was probably wrong. Okay, there we go. So then we should have our nice, yep, the ISS is next over New York City at, and it's got the date and time. So you could go further and just grab the time, which would be nice and useful, but we'll leave it at that. So it's done what we need to do. So we've gone out, we've found our IP address, pumped that into an API, and we've returned some data. So yeah, really hopefully that helps, and we'll see what else we can do with these skills. Thanks.